Sweet. But yeah, Matt, in response to the question about like how we've been going as a youth ministry, I think it's been like, it's like a cleansing almost. Like it's a really good thing for our youth ministry in the long run, because yeah, you're right. We probably have lost some kids that would just turn up and like only participate in the games and whatnot.
Sure.
So we have lost some people, but I'd say our leadership has gotten a lot more united now than ever before. We've had to kind of grow together so much more through everything, and we're really relating to each other and building each other up in our individual lives as well as youth ministry.
Fantastic.
And we're building great relationship with the kids that choose to turn up and choose to like tap onto Zoom squads and choose to turn up to the live sessions. Like there's really an open opportunity there for discipleship, I think, that like we would have missed if all of this hadn't happened. So
yeah. Nah, brilliant. Proud of you. Proud of you. So what are you doing then, Ollie? What are you doing? I love the concept of Zoom squads. You're doing some stuff on Friday nights as well, or?
So Friday. So what we used to do Zoom squad. So Zoom squad is what our connect nights. So where we do just really one-on-one. Well, not one-on-one, but like little smaller groups with the kids in grades, and then just have a chat with them. Now we have we used to do that, and then we do a live stream as well.
Yeah.
So our live stream will consist of worship and then a word and maybe a little game. That's what our live stream used to look like. But it was, I felt like it was getting, because of the restrictions of only 5 people, it's usually Sam, myself, and 2 of our tech guys, and then you have to miny with one of the leaders who will get to come on that night. So, and I felt like it was just getting a little bit, might be getting a little bit stressful. So we pulled it back. So the last couple of weeks, we've only been doing our Zoom squad, which is our great mentoring. So, which Zoom has been great because you can actually do the breakout rooms on Zoom. So when they come in, I just put them in their grades or in the different. So senior, we divide our youth group between seniors and juniors. And then we have our leaders just do the mentoring and prayer and catching up with them and see how they're going as well.
Yeah, love it. I mean, I think the thing that we're looking at now, and I mean, I guess thankfully we're starting to think about what it's like looking like on the other side of restrictions.
Yeah.
But it has been, we had to change so much, and then it's still constantly changing, so that it's actually meeting the need without sort of going, we'll do whatever you want. It was Henry Ford who obviously developed the Ford motor car. When he was sort of asked that question, did you ask people what they wanted? He said, if I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said they wanted a faster horse.
Yeah.
So it's not a matter of sort of saying, what is it that you want? What is it that you want? But what is it that we actually need to maintain momentum, to stay that connectivity? One of the things that we always tried to do in running youth was to make sure we finished a game at its peak. Yeah. So it was always so they were just gagging to play that game again, and then you wouldn't play that game again for 3 or 4 weeks because they're just frothing to play, whatever it was. And you maintain that energy as opposed to carrying something over.
Yeah.
And what was awesome for the first 2.5 hours, all of a sudden in the 3rd hour, lost all of its energy, and you couldn't just regenerate that again. Yeah. So we're finding that instead of our online stuff, we are having conversations every 3 or 4 days about, okay, what does this week look like? Are we carrying this into the next week? Traversing change in this time when change has just been so rapid is phenomenal. And I think, as we were saying before, Sammy, you're going to have. I would like to tell you, I don't think the kids who were coming into physical spaces for games, I don't think you're going to lose them. I just think that the rapid change means that some guys just don't keep up. They will catch up. They just couldn't necessarily keep up at this time. And you'll bring them all back in, mate. You really will.
Yeah, no, that's really good to hear. Like, it's good encouragement.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, Sam has been really good in his leadership as well. Like, consistency in that. Is making sure that all our leaders, every week we've got a leaders devotion that goes up in our social media. So the
Fantastic.
each of the leaders will do a devotion, and then I think that goes up on a Monday morning. Is that correct, Sam?
Yeah, Monday morning.
Yeah. So the kids, there's that consistency is there. They're not on Monday morning. That goes up, and then on Wednesday afternoons we put a question, just a little question thing on Instagram. So Sam has been really instrumental in that, making sure that takes place, so that you would keep that momentum and keep connection with the kids as well, and even those who don't necessarily choose to join on the Zoom squad, but we still in contact. And yeah, and in saying that, we actually have been, we've been, making the effort to reach out. I know there's a group of guys that Sam used to connect with via Instagram, who every week we sort of invite them to say, hey, we would love you to join. They will say nah, but we're still making that effort to still connect with them, that conscious effort.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So here's a question for your next Instagram, right?
Yes.
You need to ask, why do ballerinas dance on their toes? Why don't they just get taller dancers? I want to know the answer to that question.
All right, I'll ask that. I will genuinely put that in the Instagram thing today, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that would be really good.
I'll just go, no, you're just a weirdo.
No, I'll be like from Pastor Matt. Like Pastor Matt gave us this question.
No, he's just a weirdo.
Man.
They probably already knew that, but anyway. No, that's fantastic, guys. I love it. I love hearing just those myriad of ways that we've got to stay connected and to, just to offer out our hand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always the great tension of leadership, isn't it? That you can, we want to lead horses to water and see them drink. We don't want to necessarily make them drink, but the water's so good, and we've sort of, there's so much that you will get so much out of this if you would just simply bow your head and drink. You're right here. You've done all the work. Just drink. And we prepare spaces and messages and send out invitations and all that sort of stuff. And it's just that tension of going, okay, my job isn't to get them to or see them drink. That's the internal work of God, leading, convicting, loving. We've just got to create the spaces for them. So,
No, that's it, man. And I think for our youth ministry, we're navigating like the different levels of where youth are at. So we're noticing that like some kids have heard the gospel message of Jesus a lot, and like the whole like redemption story arc. And so what they're asking for when they tune in, like on our Zoom chats and our live squad, is that they're asking for like more, like a really like an in-depth Christianity. So we're just trying to find different ways to approach that and kind of take kids deeper in faith, rather than just, pretending that we're just going to talk about like the cross again and again. So
Great, really good. And what about church at large? How's that sort of feeling? Ollie, you were saying last week when we caught up that obviously you guys had been streaming your stuff for a while. It was just a matter of reducing your tech team.
Yeah, no, that and I mean, like you, I mean, we listened to a podcast training by Craig Rochelle from Life Church, which was just talking about, so many plannings these days, you got to hold loose hands. Because it's such a changing tide that, you cannot plan for next week today, because, things are changing. And for us, for church, that's how it is. Like we're planning, on the day, or, the guys are going to record today for Sunday. Who knows? It could get changed by Sunday, but, we're just going with it as it is. But we're seeing, I think the church as a whole, I think we're seeing some fruit. I think every week we have, someone new who is tuning into the service, and people are asking for prayers. I mean, I think it's an exciting time.
Yeah.
This is an exciting time. Like we don't really necessarily have to strive anymore to get people into the door, the physical door of church anymore. We're reaching people have got this great access now. Everyone has got a device. They can. So it is an exciting time. But I think that as we diligently, beat to the drum of God's heart and what He's saying, I think that, and be obedient to that, I think we'll see that those fruit, that we're looking forward to.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's a phenomenally exciting time. So, what great time to be alive! What great time to be leaders! What great time to have the opportunity to experience. I don't know. I mean, faith in this season. I mean, there's no one alive that has been through a pandemic.
Yeah.
Like this. I mean, yes, there's been. We've got a phenomenal generation ahead of us who has done the Depression, who's done World War, who have lost children and marriages and suffered, have known suffering, and sadly already around us there's already been a pandemic of mental illness, and wrong identity, which has meant that people have isolated or been imprisoned, probably even more accurately. So they understand that, but in terms of what we've just walked through and are going to come out the other side of, what a time to carry faith. What a time to explore the person of Jesus, the presence of Jesus, the Word of God in this time. It's been just incredible. And then coming out the other side of it, all of our new brothers and sisters who will start going, there's more to it. There's more to this world than Netflix and Channel 7 News and all that sort of stuff. There's got to be something more to this life than that. So, yeah, great time to be alive, a leader, and with faith.
That's it, man. That's so good. Yeah. How are you finding leading Youth Alive? Like, has it changed much with the recent pandemic and everything going on, or?
Yeah, completely changed.
Yeah.
So, obviously, mate, it's probably not obvious, but I was in India when the pandemic sort of really raised its head. I'd been in Indonesia earlier in the year, and it was obviously, Wuhan and China was unpacking and unraveling at that point in time. But I was in India, then it really blew up. And I was down south, and I made my way up to Calcutta, where we've got some other work, and DFAT, the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, they were saying, get home now. So I managed to get home, went straight into 2 weeks of isolation, and then had to move our church online. And then pretty much that's been what we've been doing. I won't say 24/7, but certainly just more work than I've ever done in my life. And I mean, exciting work. There is a provision for it. There's grace for it. There's energy for it. Again, God knew what mountain we had to climb, and He just gave us that Red Bull to be able to get there.
Yeah.
But obviously, in terms of what we had been hoping and planning for Youth Alive for 2020, that just got put under straw. We just bedded it down and went, well, we have no idea even how we can meet until we've actually got our own sort of ducks in a row. There's that sense of, if in the event of an emergency on a plane, in the event of an emergency and oxygen masks fall from the ceiling, make sure you fit your own first. Because if we fell apart, we weren't going to be able to help anybody else at all. And if we don't have the testimony and I guess the authenticity of having our own community of faith, even my own family, in a healthy space, I don't know what I've got to give to anybody else other than, maybe hypocrisy or just a sense of glitz and glamour. And that doesn't really, that's not me. Look at me, I'm not glitz and glamoury. But I want to give something real and something authentic and something that we're understanding. So we've probably spent the last 6 weeks doing that, and it was only really yesterday that we started looking again at what does Youth Alive look like for 2020, 2021. So we're kind of, I mean, you guys are probably hearing this for the very first time. We haven't really made solid decisions yet. And as we've already acknowledged, we don't want to make decisions for August, September here in May, because who knows what's going to happen. But probably where we are thinking of going right now is I want to pick up obviously the hope for seeing Tassie saved is there.
Mm.
And I think that as we've all shared that excitement, and as believers right across Tassie, we go, yeah, you know what, we can actually see Tasmania saved.
Yeah. Come on.
And all that saved means, you know, whole, you know, liberated, free, you know, nothing missing, healthy in mind, body, and soul. That sort of that word sozo, which means, you know, mind, body, and spirit. You know, we believe that. It's not saved as in we can see Tassie going to church, but we can see Tassie released from, you know, this fracturing of head and heart and relationship that is the consequence of dislocation from God, separation from God. And we can see that. I believe that, and I've never believed it more. Never seen the potential more. You know, when what the enemy has planned to try and shut down and kill off through a disease, God's just using to rally, to invigorate, to bring testimony. It's phenomenal, Sam. So I absolutely love the way that God does that. I think it's Andy Stanley who says, you marry the mission, but you date the model.
Yeah.
So, you know, so the model of how we have done things with Youth Alive, we celebrate, and it has been brilliant. And I would never say that we won't go back to doing some things, but I think that as I don't want to go back to normal. You know, I don't want to go back to. I want to think differently and experience differently, and I want us as a state to receive differently. So I guess probably the next 6 months, I'm really excited about this statement for us as youth ministries of Tassie, and that is to do things from relationship for relationship. And that's really the word that the Lord's laid on my heart for the next sort of 6 months for Tassie. I'm not saying we won't get together in August, September for some rallies, although I think that the larger event to me for this year, I think we need to do some rebuilding. I think we need to do some fresh relationship building, and that's not just with Youth Alive and youth ministries. I think that's within youth ministries themselves. And Youth Alive's always been a tool for you guys, and never the other way around. It has worked the other way around. Youth Alive has drawn down very heavily for its own existence off youth ministries, and therefore everyone's lost. And I was part of that. I put my hand up and go, there was times when I asked a lot more from youth ministry than I think I gave. And coming back into the chair again and having the baton passed to us from Craig and Miri and the team, you know, we were adamant that we didn't want to go back into that space again, and that we wanted to be the resource, the support base, the champions for you guys as we see Tassie saved. And it's going to be city by city, suburb by suburb, street by street, home by home.
Yeah.
It's not going to be an event that's going to do that. It's going to be done from relationship. And I think if the goal is relationship, I think then God will work out the salvation themselves. Like we were talking about leading horses to water and making them drink. I think we can probably go, no, we can actually expect that we can do things from a relational base, and that our relationships as ministers and believers and as the Church of Jesus, not divided down denominational lines, but rallying around these centerpieces of faith that earmark us as being, you know, born again and different from the world. I think expecting those things at a relational base and expecting those things to grow, that's what I'd like to really look at for 2020.
That's awesome.
And so obviously for a long period of time, the bread and butter of Youth Alive has been a rally, has been a conference, has been a camp. But I want those things to serve where a youth ministry's at.
Yeah.
And not just go, okay, that's what we've always done, so we better go back and do that again. Otherwise, we've lost our validity. I'm not entirely sure, Sam, if that's what is required in 2020. As opposed to a deeper sense of relationship, sharing, times like this, building on each other's stories, asking challenging questions of each other, bringing in tools that we can grow on, and then probably, again, not wanting to say no to anything later on in the year, but probably really building towards a conference camp in January is sort of where I think we're really aiming at. And so that has a resonancy for me. But we're still sort of working all that out. Sorry, I'm just gonna.
Yeah, man, I love that. I particularly love the value and the vision that you were communicating on how like the heart of Youth Alive is to get is to see Tassie saved, and I think that's something that really started in Youth Alive 2019 January when you led that conference for the first time for the first time coming back. And I love that vision has, in fact, just grown stronger in all of this, and like in the isolation,
Are you guys hearing that? Is that coming through, or is that just me?
That's coming through, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
That's all good.
Oh yeah, I can't turn that. Someone's calling me on Messenger. Sorry, everybody.
Nah, it's all good. It's popular, man. But yeah, I just love. No, it's all good. I just love that the vision that you communicated originally with Youth Alive has transcended, and it's going to continue to grow. It's definitely shaped the method, I think, is what you were saying, but it's still there. And I think the fact that heart never left, and that's the vision we continue with, that's really what's going to build Youth Alive and build like the youth ministries of Tassie. More so awesome than one large event, because you're right, we're moving from large events, we're moving more into discipleship and relationship territory, and I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, and I think that's again that's the biblical model of how we're doing that together, and we can have those great times of unity and all the energy that goes into doing that, but yeah, I would love to, as Youth Alive and a representative of Youth Alive, obviously national here in Tassie, is just to have those conversations, to come up and hang out with you guys, to do whatever I can do on a Friday night or a Thursday night, have the pizza, go out for breakfast in the morning, all those sorts of things. I think would be that'd be my heart. And then to again, whether it's mentoring or just good accountable questioning of one another, asking questions with each other. I think, and I think the way forward for us is going to be asking, having great conversations. Oh my gosh, can you give me 1 second?
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. So sorry, I can't talk now, matey, and I can't seem to.
There you go, man.
You must talk.
It's all good.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
So good. It's the part of the authenticity that we were talking about. You can. We won't edit it. We will not edit this out either.
I'm really glad I didn't go. What the hell? I probably should have hit mute, and you would have seen me going.
Real and authentic leadership. That's it. Transparent.
She's a good lady.
Pastor Matt, obviously you're leading a church in this time, and you're also you're also leading Youth Alive for Tassie as well. My question is, what have you learned, and what advice you give to probably a youth pastors or youth leaders who will be tuning to watching this and leading in this time?
Yeah, I think that there'd be a couple of things. I think that Mark Twain said the only person who likes change is a wet baby. Yeah. And we don't like change, and here we are. We're just changing, week to week. Yeah. And I think that we've still got to go through a tremendous period of change.
Yeah.
So for any leader out there, I'd be going, just embrace change. It's going to keep happening, and if we don't get comfortable with change, then we move into a really unhealthy space in our head, our heart, and our relationships. Because it's not just our programs that need to change. It's how we approach problem, and it's not just how am I changing. It's how are you changing? How's my family changing? And I think that there's a grace and a mercy on that. I'd be saying, expect change. I'd say have some mercy on yourself. because we are going to make mistakes. There's going to be good days and bad days. We sometimes think we only change when something's going wrong. That's not true. I mean, Jesus actually said, I'm going to prune you so that you would bear even more fruit. So change in a lot of instances is actually about how can we continue to grow, but that just requires mercy. It requires a bit of forgiveness. It requires a bit of grace, and just in that space to sort of say, hey, let's just chillax. I was talking about Archie before, and 6 years old. He's a smart kid. He's not reading Tolkien, and he's not writing haikus yet. But he's a smart enough kid that he's going to be fine. And I read a comment from a woman who had survived the civil war in Bosnia, and a lot of the guys watching probably wouldn't remember the siege of Sarajevo and bits and pieces, but it was horrendous. And I still have images in my mind of seeing people running and ducking through the streets from snipers. And she had said that they lived for 4 years in Sarajevo, ducking snipers to get bread and milk. And here she is now, 38, 40 years old, a double degree, multiple kids, living in her own home. And she's sort of going, hey, listen, I missed 4 years of school. Your kids are going to miss a couple of months of school. Just relax.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. So it doesn't mean we're not intentional. It doesn't mean we do what we feel to do at certain times. But when it doesn't come off, we kind of go, listen, there is change. There are going to be mistakes. I think when we stress it and we sweat it, it just adds an extra layer to an already challenging season.
Yeah.
I'd probably say the things that I've learned is that to acknowledge what is actually hard. I was listening to, who was I listening to? Someone, and they were talking about a guy called Stockdale, who was the highest ranking military officer who was imprisoned in a Vietnamese prisoner of war camp in the Hanoi Hilton. I don't know if you've heard this story, but he was in there for 8 years.
Yeah.
And he is quoted a number of times as saying that the way that he survived was to take his faith and hope that he was going to be liberated, and in between those acknowledge the horror in the middle. He said it was the people who wouldn't acknowledge the horror and all they had was optimism. Everything's going to be fine. We're going to be out by Easter. We're going to be out by Christmas. And those times came and went, and their hearts got broken because they failed to see the horror before them. And then, and yes, there's a foundation of faith and hope, but it's tough, man. It's tough. People have lost jobs. We're not in the States with 100,000, deaths. We're not in Italy. We're not in Spain. Those places, they've got some rebuilding to do. They've got some trauma, which is going to be significant. But I'd say, we maintain our faith, but we have to acknowledge that it has been tough. For a lot of people, not seeing their friends, not being around community. We talk about young people where so much of their identity and their value is found in gathering. To be at home, to be isolated, to only have the essential nature of vibrant, growing relationships made virtual, made 2-dimensional, not 3-dimensional, and then just Netflix, Xbox, and Spotify shaping so much of their thinking. This is really hard.
Yeah.
And I think that if we go, it's great, it's fantastic, everything's wonderful. That's faith, and there is joy in times of affliction, and there is hope even in times of horror. But we've got to be able to hold both of those in tension.
Yeah.
So, there'll be people who will write books after book after book after stuff they've learned in 8 weeks alive on planet Earth during, March, April, May 2020. But I'd sort of say those things. I'd say expect change, have some mercy on yourself, acknowledge that it's hard. Would be sort of some of the real key things I'd be doing. And then, I think we've got to run to Jesus with this. It's interesting that two people can have the same experience and have a different outcome.
Yeah.
So there can be people out there whose parents get divorced, their sister gets cancer, they fail an exam, and some of those things can lead people in towards Jesus.
Yeah.
Some of the same experiences can lead people away from Jesus.
Yeah.
And there's no mathematical reasoning or rhyme. They're not. One is not a better person than the other.
Mm.
But to anyone who's listening, I would be saying, run to Jesus.
Mm.
He is the answer. He is that way, that truth, and that life. And so you're not going to find answers anywhere else. You have to find answers in Jesus. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for that. Yeah, it's so much truth in that, and I have heard that quote before, but it's always so good to hear it about that the captain in that who survived the prison camp, and it's just a reality. You've touched a little bit on this before, but I just want to just get a bit more insight into this. Now we've got a lot of kids who are obviously in front of computers now, playing games, watching movies and all of that. There's so much screen time, even more than they used to before because of because of the season we're in. Now they might think that, I'm not meeting my friends anymore to invite them to youth group or to come to a youth group on a Friday night. But there are other ways. I mean, there are a lot of youth groups around who are still doing things. Encouragement, how would you encourage them to be, still be Jesus, to put it in a way, Jesus centered, and still keep their eyes like, you still have a mission, even though you can't meet people physically anymore, but you still need to be the light here. What is the encouragement you will give to maybe, I'm talking about, we from grade 6 right up to grade 12. What are some of the insight or some of advice you want to give those guys at the moment?
Yeah, amazing question. I have found in and of myself that I find it fairly hard to invite people to something that I'm running from.
Yeah.
So the closer I am with Jesus, the more time I'm spending with him, and that's not sort of 7 hours in silent prayer, but the more my focus is set on him, the more that I have him shaping my thinking. I'm inviting him into experience, good and bad. The more that I spend just reading the Bible or having the Bible read to me through YouVersion, the more that I actually spend time going, okay, I'm not going to watch that movie or that television series, and I'm not going to binge it. I'm going to do something different. The more he comes alive in my heart, the more I am present to the opportunity to invite.
Yeah.
The more that I am excited to invite, the more that I'm confident to invite. Whereas if my own personal walk, discipleship, my own personal excitement about Jesus is on the wane, then I'm far less likely to share a post, to invite someone to come, to put up a testimony about how amazing God is. There's a fascinating thought about the difference between eating in the natural and eating in the spiritual. And in the natural, the more we eat, we become full, and the less we want to eat. At the end of a meal, I'm full. I can't eat anymore. But when we're talking about the spiritual, the more we eat spiritually, the hungrier we get. I just can't get enough. So the more I drink, I just want to keep drinking. I want to keep drinking. I want to keep drinking. The presence of God or worship or whatever, and that spills out into my invitations.
Yeah.
So if I'm honest before God and I go, I so want to invite my friends. I so want to shine His light. I so want to be real and authentic. I so don't want to care what people think about me. I want to be bold. I want to be courageous. Then the starting point's got to be, well, so come alive in me first.
Yeah.
Shine your light in me first. Speak to me first.
Yeah.
And therefore, the overflow of that is to other people.
Yeah.
That's so good.
I think that often I'm trying to work for something as opposed to working from something.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering at times, do I invite my friends? Do I share gospel? Do I sort of put up a post? Do I share a post because I think God will be pleased with me? Or because he's already pleased with me and I have the confidence to go ahead and do that?
Yeah. No, that's
So,
great.
Look, the way that we share these days, we don't have to, write sermons and put up long stuff online. We can share. You guys will be doing great stuff, and sharing is caring. That's sort of, we want you to, click and flick. We want you to invite people into those spaces. It's probably never been more easy to actually have good content to share and places to invite people into. They don't have to ask their mum for a lift to youth on Friday night. They just need to carve out some time and turn their phone on. So it's actually never been easier to come into Christian community because it's like this. I haven't had to drive to Launceston with you guys and then have to drive back home again. It's never been simpler to have great Christian conversation and iron sharpen iron.
Yeah.
But why? So therefore, why don't we?
Yeah.
If it's never been easier, why don't we? And I would say it's not because we're bad people, because we don't believe Jesus, or because I'm slack or I'm worried. Even I'm worried about what will people think about me. I think it's probably more a statement of, am I fully alive in God saying, hey, Matt, share this with so and so. Hey, Sam, why don't you share this thing personally with Edgar, and put this thing with it, and we actually are alive to him, to the nudges of the Holy Spirit, to the whispers that go, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Because he's actually alive in me and is speaking to me about me first. And it's that oxygen mask analogy again. My oxygen mask is fitted. I'm breathing nice and deep. And now I can actually start looking around and going, who else can I help?
Yeah.
If I'm struggling to breathe myself, the last thing I'm thinking about is someone sitting next to me. I'm just gasping for air. So
that's so good.
Right.
I don't know if that sort of helps, but
no, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's awesome. And one of the things you mentioned was starving, and how in like us physically we need, like when we eat we get full, but spiritually when we eat we get more hungry. Well, it just kind of struck to me that the more we eat spiritually, the less we desire the things of the world. So for people that are like, when we're struggling with like mental illness, or we're struggling with anxiety or stress, or just everything like coming down upon us, we start, magnifying that, because that's what we're feeding upon. Like that's what we're focusing on, and we're blocking everything else out. But when we choose to just set the time aside to focus on God and invest in the Bible and just start seeking his presence, then all of a sudden, we start magnifying him over the problem. And honestly, that's probably the way that we're going to get stronger and get out of this like season stronger in God, is because we're going to start magnifying him over everything.
Yeah. There was a song that I don't know. I certainly would have had around in my young days. Ollie, you may remember it, but it was a chorus that went, turn your eyes upon Jesus.
I do remember that. Great old hymn. Yeah.
Full in his wonderful face.
Yeah.
And then the things on earth will grow strangely dim.
Yeah.
In the light of his glory and grace, or beauty and grace. I can't remember it now, but yeah, you're exactly right, Stan. The more we actually are facing Father, the shadow that light casts is behind us. As we turn and face the world, then his light is actually coming from behind us, and all I see is my shadow.
Yeah, so good.
And the shadow of the world, and it's the shadow is there because of the existence of a light source in the first place.
Yeah, awesome.
So,
yeah. Hey, Pastor Ollie.
Yes.
We've asked Matt what like he would want to say to the youth of today, and like in our youth group. What about you though? Because you're pretty you're fresh to the ministry and you've done an amazing job, especially considering everything that's happened since you signed on in January. But what are your insights? What would be your insights for the youth?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely right. I mean, in this time, it's so easy to get, like what Pastor Matt just said, so easy to get bogged down in binge watching so many things, and that I think it's so important to set aside. So one of the things I've started doing with my kids when we have breakfast in the morning is just I'll tell the kids go grab a book, because we've got a lot of kids book around here that's you know, the story of creation or God's word and that sort of stuff. I just tell them grab a Bible. So our 10-year-old will grab a Bible, and some of them will grab a devotion, and they will just go sit down in a corner for about 15 minutes. I said, I don't care whether you're just looking at pictures or read whatever. Just go and have a 10-minute, 15-minute quiet time to yourself. And you know, and then they've got the entire day to do whatever they want to. So for me, to the youth, is like, I know it's so easy to stay in bed, and then as soon as you roll out of bed, it's just grab that phone and go straight on it. But it's so much easier. Just grab 10 minutes. 10 minutes, that's all it takes. Grab a book, or, you know, grab the U version, read a verse for the day. Like, you don't even have to find it these days. On the U version, the verse of the day just come up automatically. You can actually set it as a reminder on your phone. And then the first thing when you click your phone, it's that verse of the day. So start with a word, like what Pastor Matt was saying, that if you're not in tune with a word, then you cannot know when you read a word for the day. You're like, hey, I've been talking to a mate online on that game who I think that this will work for. And so, you know, just taking 10 minutes of your day, just sit around, read a book, or listen to a worship song that uplifts you, that sets you up for the day. And it doesn't have to be first up in the morning. You know, you could do it before you go to bed, or maybe when you have a break from that, whatever you're doing. I guess, you know, you can just grab that book or the Bible and just read it. And it doesn't have to be 2 hours or 3 hours in the day. God doesn't, you know, God doesn't care the amount of time you spend on reading the Bible and stuff. It just just communicate with me in a day, you know. You know, if you don't drink water in the day, you end up with a massive headache during the day. I know for me, if I don't drink enough water by the end of the day, I've got a massive headache. And I think that's what our spiritual soul is like as well. If we don't try and at least quench that thirst, you know, the more thirsty we'll get. So my encouragement is do whatever you can, you know, to connect with God. And for you, and if you're out there as well, who you don't know what this is all about, you know, there are great sermons on YouTube these days that you can, and we would love to hear from you as well. You know, wherever you are in the state or wherever you're watching this, you know, get in contact with, you know, there's a lot of youth group online these days that you can connect with, but just do one thing to connect yourself with God in a day. So yeah, that would be encouragement.
So
really good. Yeah.
And when I'm talking about my kids. I've got five, you know, 5 years old, 7, 8, and 10 years old. So they're very young. And I'm thinking that I've got to set this tone for them. I've got to make them set this tone, not force them, but just set the tone for them to say that this is how you start your day. And, and then from there, you can just keep building. Because once that becomes a routine, kids they love routine. Once that becomes part of the routine, I don't even have to remind them anymore. They just do it. Yeah.
No, I love it. It's really good. Really, it's so simple, so true. Great.
Yeah, so good. All right, passing that, I got one crazy question. So during the isolation, our youth have really got it's really interesting. One of the debates you're talking about your ballerina question, and in turn we've got our youth group's been going about. It's in debate. It's going on for ages, but our youth group's been questioning once again if pineapple belongs on pizza. And it's really interesting who in our leadership is agreeing and not agreeing. And Pastor Ollie has his own opinion, which I respectfully disagree with, but just wondering yours, man.
Look, I love pineapple. And I'm not about to burn someone at the stake if they put it on pizza.
Okay.
I wouldn't pick it off pizza.
Yep.
If it was on there, but I would never order one with it on.
Okay.
So I think
that's like the middle ground.
I've really taken the middle ground.
Yeah.
I like triple anchovy and jalapeno garlic prawn pizzas. That's sort of that's where I'm going. I'm going super salt, super spice, Mexicana, You know, full ring stinger. That's what I want in terms of
Powerhouse. Yeah, wow.
and anything which detracts from that, I'm not interested. I don't do sweet chili sauce. I think sweet chili sauce. I am more violent towards sweet chili sauce than I am towards pineapple. I just think that sweet chili sauce is just, you know, I don't even get me started. I have to mute myself. But no, I don't mind. No. I don't like pineapple on pizza. That's not my jam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
And,
yeah.
and I just think that the people who, I think if you did a survey and actually found the people who like pineapple on pizza,
Yep.
I think you'll probably find most of those people have got a lower IQ, probably less friends, and you know, probably some personal grooming issues. They need to use a bit more deodorant, stuff like that. So,
oh mate, that's rough. That went from you taking the middle ground to absolutely roasting.
there you go. Yeah, we'll see.
Not only me.
I couldn't take the middle ground. I had to step it up.
Oh,
so,
mate. Well, I can congratulate you on not being like lukewarm. You're definitely hot or cold. But mate, me and 85% of our youth group are very sad.
oh, that's very sad.
Yeah.
And apparently very stupid. So anyway, so that's not bad.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
But,
I've been trying to pastor them out of that
it's not happening, man.
insanity, but you know,
probably deliverance. These things only come out with prayer and fasting. So
I can't do this. I can't be a part of this call anymore, man. I respect your leadership, both of you, but mate, this ain't going anywhere. This is saving Tassie.
I'm a pineapple fan. I had some pineapple in India that they put chili flakes all over and like chili powder on it, and then cook it, and it's just a hammer. It's amazing. So
wow. Okay.
Yeah. I just like teasing people.
Yeah.
So I'm a shocker. So
hey, Pastor Matt, on finishing last term, we focus on worship as a topic for the term. And we really sunk our teeth into that and just talked about it. And I mean, for me as a worship leader and and a worshiper as well, it's something that really anchors me. And I think that what we listen to, music wise, has a real effect on our mood and all of that, and what comes out as well. And so I've been trying to, as a ministry, as a youth ministry, I've been trying to, lay that out for us about what worship means and how, when we worship, it transcends, so many things. It takes the focus off us and put it back on God. I mean, you think about, King David in the Bible, and all his ups and downs, he still was just one of the greatest worshippers in all of history and all of time. So with that said, how has worship for you, or how is worship been a part of your life, and how have you, has it become, part of your church, your ministry as well? So just some thoughts on that.
Yeah, look, I have a really diverse musical taste.
Yeah.
So for many years I couldn't listen to anything secular at all, and it wasn't I didn't enjoy it, but I really like a lot of different type of bands. So I like Johnny Cash to Bob Marley. I like Tom Waits. I like Pearl Jam. I like a band called the Dropkick Murphys, which is Celtic punk.
Yeah.
And they're a lot of fun. But in this last season, and so I differentiate in terms of music.
Yeah.
Worship for me. So I don't mind music. But certainly in this last season in particular, I have wanted to have. I've just needed to have a continued washing of Jesus-centered thinking, and worship has been a huge part of that for me. And so and it's been instrumental right throughout my ministry. So whether or not it's actually listening to Christian stuff, or I'm listening to, often I've got to go to listen to classical music because I just sometimes the words are just too much, and I don't want the words to lead my thinking. I want just my focus and my sense of communion to be with him. And sometimes I feel like the words get in the way.
Yeah.
So there's also some really lovely, sort of ambient music out there. I mean, you can find stuff without whales singing in the background and, waterfall stuff.
Yeah.
That just really just creates a space for me to focus and to turn my heart over and to invite him into a space with me it is just all about him.
Yeah.
So, look, I think that Jesus can speak in so many different places. I mean, Jesus has spoken to me out of Pearl Jam and Paul Kelly. There is stuff in some of the 70s soul funk that I really enjoy. To as much as it is Bethel and the new Elevation album, that God just loves to speak, and he can, and if our hearts are towards him in a sense of, Lord, all I want is just for you to speak and have your way. And, it's the same as he can reveal himself in sunrises and baby crying and a good pizza with friends. We can actually experience him in that time. And he's so overwhelmed with it. No, he's so generous with his presence in that. I don't know if you remember the book, The Shack. And there's a scene in the shack where God the Father, who within that allegory is presenting as an African American woman.
Yeah.
And a song comes on the radio that Mac kind of goes, that God is actually going, I love these guys, I love their groove, I love their sense of spirit and adventure. And Mac's going that I wouldn't have thought that you'd like those. Almost in my head, I have this sense of the Black Eyed Peas playing in the background, or something like that,
Yeah.
And God just taking such pleasure in his kids. Now I understand that there's stuff that can be very dishonoring, can be very distracting, can really sow seeds in that. And I guess the warning to a lot of young people is that now being, approaching 50, is that you kind of get a chance to filter, where's my heart at? Is this now, do I need to filter this out? Do I need to step this up? Is this now a right time? So obviously during COVID-19, my listening habits and my viewing habits have very much so gone back to being much more God focused. I can't remember the last time I listened to something which probably didn't have a real Christian heartbeat to it, aka the new Elevation album and bits and pieces like that. That's just where I've absolutely needed to lock in on, because there's so much stuff trying to drag me away from that. I don't know if I'm answering your question, man, but outside to say, I think that I don't want worship for me, and then I'll just get this right. I don't want worship to me about trying to please God, because I'm already pleasing to God.
Yeah.
I want worship to not be a Christian exercise. I want worship to be a way of, how do I know him, and how do I create space for him to know me, as opposed to doing something which is churchy. And taking up that posture as a believer now for however many days I've got left on the planet, I can be a worshiper in all types of environments. So, so my Spotify playlist is all over the show, from Eva Cassidy to to Johnny Cash to to Pink Floyd, as well as from podcasts. I go through seasons where I listen to a heap of podcasts. I go through seasons where I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and again, they're predominantly speaking ones. They're not sort of guys axing themselves on skateboards and and how fast can you eat a watermelon. But so I want to be a worshiper like you, Ollie, in every opportunity that he gets me to be in, not in order to do something for him, but to do something with him.
Yeah. So
and that he can then do something through me.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
So,
right. Yeah, because I've been encouraging him that, when I talk about worship, I'm not just talking about the music aspect of it. I was like, I said, we've been, you know, are you a painter? Are you a dancer? Are you,
great.
are you a writer? Worship, it's not, music is one aspect of worshiping. For you, maybe walking through nature, that's worshiping God. And for me, I think that where I was more encouraging them is just like what you said, just what you're listening to, is that honoring to God, or what what the gift and ability that is given to you, or what you're doing, is that bringing honor, to the Creator. In some ways, not worshiping creation, but worshiping the Creator of creation. So that's more the encouraging the side of things. But I love the insight that you've given to us and the time. So any pattern last comments and thoughts that you want to leave with us, Pastor Matt?
Look, honestly, I think the privilege of this season that we're in, there's the Bible is, obviously we know that there's Abraham, there's Moses, there's the disciples who got to walk with Jesus, John, who said, him who we've touched and heard and seen with our own eyes. And, and then within, the whole scope of this life that we have and our existence here actually has a start and has an end. God doesn't. He's actually standing outside that start and that end, right? So he's saying beginning and end, and we're somewhere on this middle, but somewhere in that. But he's got his best players on the field for right now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
To think that we could have had John Wesley or Mother Teresa could have been on the field in this season. They've all gone home to glory, and he's got us. Representing him in this age of technology, age of COVID-19, age of of misunderstanding what is our purpose and how do we differentiate between right, wrong, good, and evil. He's got us.
So good.
I just feel so phenomenally privileged that I know that I'm 15 seconds from stupid. Seriously, it's not that I've got to work hard because His grace says I don't have to strive, but I know exactly who I am, and the fact that He chooses to use a donkey like me and takes such pleasure in me, and He's so kind towards me. It's such a privilege, And then I guess the thought that I woke up to yesterday morning was, I think sometimes we think that this Christian walk is like we're going to get. Obviously, we don't want to be deceived, but He's so kind towards us. He is going to nudge, guide, shout, highlight, spotlight His path forward for us. That the thought that He said to me is, my kindness is greater than the enemy's craftiness.
That's awesome.
So the enemy's crafty, man, and we've got to be alert. We've got to be alive. That's why we've got to stay connected. That's why we've got to, get into these, Zoom squads. That's why we've got to worship. Because the enemy's crafty. But God is kinder. And I think that He takes us at our word. When I gave Him my heart, He took it, and He ain't giving it back. He said, "No, I paid a price for that. I'm not giving it back." And so we are secure in Him. So
Oh, thank you, Pastor Matt. Anything, Sam, that you want to add? If not, I can get Pastor Matt to pray a blessing over, youth ministries across the state and youth pastors as well.
Nah, man, I've been so encouraged. But if there's anything I'd say to anyone that's listening, that again, if you're feeling like you need connection, then reach out. Like if it's not us, reach out to like your friends, reach out to your family. Just make sure that you're connected, because that's honestly how we're going to, grow stronger together. It's not that we're going to grow stronger alone as we get through the season, but, again, Bible says where there's 2 and 3 gathered, and that means socially distant. That means we can still gather online, and there's a lot of power in that. So don't miss out on the community. But that's what I'd say.
Awesome.
Amen.
Awesome.
Pastor Matt, would you like to pray a blessing over us, over youth
Love
ministries and kids as well?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So good.
Father, I thank you. We thank you. We praise you. We come and just sit at your feet just for a minute and just adore you. That you are our creator. You are kind. You are near. You hold us in the palm of your hand and nothing can snatch us out. And that even though there may be storms that rage around us, even though there may be lions in the street and scratchings on our door, when we are centered and placed in you, there is no safer place. There is no place with more light, more peace, or more joy. And so, Father, we just thank you that you're so present towards us. Father, for my brothers, my sisters in your church, in my church, in Door of Hope, as we're all part of your expression on planet Earth, I thank you for their courage. I thank you for their faith and their faithfulness. I thank you for their diligence and their desire for more of you and to see you spilling right out into the world that sees every home, every business, every school transformed by your truth,
Yes.
by your freedom, by your goodness. Father, I thank you for every person who's been listening either to this podcast or even just this interview, this chat, and then this prayer, Lord, that you're going to speak to them so beautifully today. You're going to whisper something amazing about them. You're going to reveal something in your purpose and your great pleasure towards them. You're going to reveal something in your plan towards them. And they're going to know that if you have started it, you are so committed to completing it.
Yes.
That the good work that you began in us, you will bring to completion, Father.
Yes.
Your word doesn't return to you without having accomplished what you sent it to.
Yeah.
And Father, your word says live. Your word says bear fruit. Your word says that you will know me. And we thank you for your word, Father. You're watching over it to see that it's performed. So perform your word in our lives today, Lord Jesus. Amen.
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 Sweet.
Well, thank you, Pastor Matt. Thank you for
what an honor.
taking some time off and having a chat with us. Really appreciate it. Thank you for all your insight, your wisdom, and can't wait to see what how God moves in this next couple of months and in the future.
Yeah,
Amen.
We love you. We love your leadership and your vision. We really appreciate it of it.
Thanks, man. Thanks, buddy. Can't wait to come and hang out with you guys. And when I come up, we'll go out for pizza, and I'll even buy you guys some pizza with pineapple on it, all right, just to show that there's no hard feelings, all right? So
I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be so good. And you and Ollie can eat the spiciest pizza ever and watch me cry.
Come on.
All right. Thanks.
I love you guys. Love your families.
Love you. Cheers, man. Have a great day.
There you go.